Hello, hi, and welcome to the Gracie Gatto podcast. And today we have Stacy Brown. Say hi, Stacy.
Hello.
A very special guest. Her name is Esther. Esther, welcome. So please tell me about yourself. Tell us all about who you are.
My name is Esther. I'm an eighth grader here in Concord. I go to school at Runlet Middle School, and I'm 13.
Okay, and how did you come into liking politics, or what drew you to politics?
It was more so this past year as well, and just seeing the inequality a lot in my school and how they treated, POC, for example, or just women, or just certain groups of people who have been you know, have prejudice against them back in history and nowadays as well. And another thing that really kind of brought me into it as well is when I just started experiencing racism, prejudice in my life, because I am a Black woman
Mhm.
in the world right now, and in a pretty predominantly white city as well. So that's another thing that kind of brought me into thinking, well, why are things like this? And then I taught myself the history on it and everything. And then I started getting involved in my community, for example, in Project Story. I got into that in sixth grade. So 2 years
What
ago,
is Project Story?
it's a nonprofit that helps people of color and just the community of Concord.
Really? So Concord is home. Concord, New Hampshire is home.
Hmm.
But you had quite the resume already. I mean, you're 13, you're in the eighth grade, and you were born in South Africa.
I
You
was born in Namibia. Namibia.
okay? And sorry, and you know five languages. You're fluent in two. And what are those two languages you know really well?
English and Kinyarwanda.
And can how do you say how do you say nice to meet you? And
Nobody really says that. We kind of just greet and we say "Muraho mezaute," which is basically "Hi," "What's up," "What's the news," "What's going on with you recently."
oh, so it's like a what's up. So how do you
Yeah,
say it
like
again?
kind of like saying it's not really "What's up." It's kind of hard. The direct translation is "What's the news," which
Mhm.
isn't obviously what we're saying. It's kind of "Oh, how have you been?" Things of that nature. And "Muraho" is just saying hello. And
So
then if you want to say it in Swahili, you say "Jambo." Jumbo Sana. That's how you say it. That's hi. How?
why
That's
can't
the.
you get back to
So,
me?
Grace, I can say that that Project Story was the only group that did that recognized Martin Luther King Day. There was an MLK Day celebration, and there were a lot of students that kind of got up and shared their personal stories. And I couldn't believe that Concord, there was nothing. And even I'm on the city council, and we did nothing to recognize MLK Day. And that's when I really saw Esther speak and talk about it. And I am part of the Women's Club in Concord, which does a lot of really great things, started the first kindergarten, and has really worked on voters' rights, fighting racism. And for Black History Month, we had some of the students from Project Story and another resident come and share. And it's so important to hear people's stories.
I think it's an atrocity
Yeah.
that New
Oh, it was
Hampshire
outrageous.
is
But you
the
know what?
last state to recognize MLK Day. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you feel
Yeah.
about that, Esther? Do you,
I feel like it's not really that surprising to me since we are in New Hampshire, and I mean an ice center was proposed to be here as of a few months ago. Thank goodness they got the hate and the pressure from the public to scrap that idea. But it's not really the most progressive state
no,
compared to something like Mass. We are seen as New England, a very progressive area,
Mhm.
but you start living in these areas and you start experiencing life as a minority or something, then you kind of see it. And I'm very grateful that Project Story does have events like this, and we do advocate for it in our community. So I knew that Concord, it was the only thing that we had, and like a lot more progressive cities, like for example, Manchester, they have a very they have a more diverse city as well, since they have a lot of black kids, like people from just different backgrounds in general. Like you'll meet someone from Manchester who's Dominican and African American. You won't find that here in New Hampshire.
No,
Here in Concord, you won't find that. But you'll find that somewhere in Manchester, like things like that.
that's one
So,
thing I like cultural, you know?
and I know like in New York, it'll be like even more different. Like I know I saw a video one time and it was like a Palestinian guy having a stand for food since, they have great food in New York City.
Mhm.
And he was
Mhm.
jerk chicken, which is a Jamaican dish, and the people they were like, "What? A Palestinian making jerk chicken? That's crazy!" And it tasted really good too. So,
Yeah. You know,
so
Pal
they
Pal
really their culture like that.
Palestinian street food, I'm all for it.
For sure.
But you've let's get to your travels. So you've traveled quite extensively for 13, and tell us about it. Like
What do
you
you
grew
mean?
up in different places.
Oh, I've only been in 3 countries so
Hmm.
far. My parents they've really traveled, especially my mom. So basically, we are refugees from Rwanda, and there was a civil war going on at the time, so my mom had to flee. And then she traveled from Rwanda all the way down to Namibia in a camp called Aside. And they are a refugee camp based in Namibia near Otiwarongo. It's this other big city there. Namibia is really it's it's not densely populated at all. There's about 2 million people who live there, and it's about like 10 times the size of New Hampshire. And New Hampshire has about 1 million people living here. So they have double the population of New Hampshire, but like 10 times more, you know, like,
Geography.
yeah, geography. They take up tons more space. So that's why it's kind of a better place to go to as well, since it's easier to travel, since there's not that many people. And it was a really good refugee camp to go into. And
What do you remember from that? Like being a kid running around in a refugee camp.
oh,
What is
so
that like?
it was a lot of it was a lot of fun. It was like uh rice and beans a lot. That was
That's what you brought back.
yeah, that's like what I remember a lot, and
Yeah.
just like being dumb and just doing stuff. Like my brother fell off a tree one time when my uncle and aunt were watching us, and they were like panicking because at this point they're like in their 20s.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh my gosh, like what do we do? Like, oh, I don't want my older brother to come back and get mad at me." It's at and my mom. So they're the ones that really traveled a lot,
Hmm.
and that's the big thing. And then we came to the U.S. after applying for asylum and things like that.
And it's interesting because I think it gives you a perspective that most Americans don't have because they don't most Americans don't travel outside the United States.
Oh yeah.
It gives you an insight to humanity as a whole, people instead of races and cultures. It's more of a like let's connect, you know?
For sure. Another thing too that I've learned myself is that there's a more genetic difference between different people. For example, someone from Morocco or Moroccan has more of a difference genetically from like someone who's Zulu from South Africa
Hmm.
compared to someone who's Zulu and a European white person. They're more similar in genetics than another person who lives in the same continent. So that's what, even though they're seen as two completely different races,
Hmm.
and people from like the Moroccan and the person who's Zulu would be considered the same race. So that's another thing that makes you think of just about how race is just at the end of the day it's like a social construct, but
It
it's
is.
so it's
Because if you
so
break it down, what it is, it's just your genetic makeup for how your ancestors survived their surroundings, their environment at that time. It's ridiculous to hate on someone who has a more melanin because they grew up in a hotter area. How does that make them inferior in any way, shape, or form?
yeah, that's
It
like
does-
at the end of the day, it's really just propaganda fed into people, and it's simply just that
Mm-hmm.
since
Colonialism.
exactly,
Yes.
because you have to distract people from the fact that they're getting colonized and pin them against each other. You see that in the Rwandan genocide, for example, when Belgium came in and everything. So they put away the Tutsi people against the other group and everything, and they were like, oh, if you look this certain way, you can't be together and stuff like that. They had to make them fight in order for them to ignore the fact that they were getting colonized in the process.
Ideology, so to speak.
Yeah, my parents, we don't really talk about politics all that much. My mom just she's an interesting perspective since like I don't really understand her perspective, but my dad is very
But she's your mother, of course. You don't understand your
yeah,
perspective.
my dad is very conservative,
Mhm.
not in the sense that like that he's like a big like MAGA person or anything like that. More so in the sense of like he has very traditional views.
Mhm.
Whereas my mom is more like the opposite. And then that's a big thing with them. And then with me, I'm just more on uh, equality for all and things of that nature. And, not to be that person, but I like a lot of things with, for example, Mamdani just did he just passed something, would tax on $1 million like apartments or properties that haven't been lived in, and like I'm in support for things like that. And like democratic socialists, like I think they have a group for that in the high school as
Mhm.
well, things like that.
So you lean
And
way more toward Democrat than anything else.
I mean, I see it as more like the two political spectrums. Like for example, Kamala, like this past election, like the 2024 election, they I saw this really funny, but it was like Republicans, all our money is going to go to Israel, and then it was like Democrats, all our money is going to go to Israel. Hashtag women's rights, hashtag LGBTQ rights. It's like things like that because at the end of the day, they're both really corrupt, and if you look at it on like a political scale, both of them are pretty, far like on the right wing. Because I was reading actually, Kamala, she had a book out. It was like I forgot. It was like something days. I forgot. It was like 181 days or something like that.
Mhm.
And
Is Kamala your hero?
not really. I don't really. She had this very odd. She is very pro-Israel, for example. And another thing, she has like these anti-terrorist policies,
Mhm.
which are very odd. I mean, you can go and read them for yourself, but it's things like that. But a lot of national elections are just picking out of the greater evil nowadays. So that's a bad part of it too. I mean, I'm not even old enough to vote, but I feel like a lot of people kind of put on a hero cape on Democratic political figures when in reality you have to hold everybody the same standard.
You know what? I'm glad to hear you say that, Esther, because that is just common sense, right?
Exactly.
And I'm glad that like your generation is getting, maybe you could do something better than we can because it's so divided. And if I saw on Facebook, it's like, oh, I wouldn't want to talk to that person because they're MAGA, or I don't want to do business with a person because they're liberal. You know, like that's not America.
It's really encouraging. Esther recently testified on House Bill 1633, and that bill is just so that all victims of sexual assault, they receive their rights like a palm card. And it was so encouraging because Esther could see what was really going on when there was opposition to it. She could tell that it was just totally ridiculous. So I
Speaking
love
of
that
common
this
sense,
generation can see through that.
Yeah, it was really just I could see through the BS since as soon as I went down to testify
hmm
about like four people had testified before me, and at the end of all their testimonies they obviously said, if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer. And all the senators like on the board were just like, no, we don't have any questions. anything, whatever. And then I said, "Oh, do you have any questions for me?" And obviously, I'm assuming you have questions for me. And they just everyone who testified for the bill got completely ignored after, and it was kind of just like you were testifying, but they were just hearing words, they weren't really understanding them. Whereas the people who were testifying against it, the coalition for
Oh.
New Hampshire Coalition for Sexual and Domestic Abuse, things like that. He was very in tune with them, like the senators there, and they were asking a lot more questions. It was more engaging. So that's another thing that I noticed.
So we are a group that are called Agents of Chaos. Have you heard of that, Esther?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
State, and all of them.
And it just means for us, it means you're able to stand up to accountability, due process. The American way was supposed to be common sense, like you say. So we
Right.
are granting you the honorary title of a member of the Agents of Chaos. Yeah, I can already tell you're definitely an old soul. Like, don't let your age fool you. You've been here before.
Oh yeah.
I could see that about you.
I went on a tour to the State House actually with Stacy and a few other high school girls. What I want to talk about is like some ideas I had, obviously. So, what caused me to do this, I think I already told you, just prejudice that I've experienced and just seeing, corruption firsthand in the nation and locally as well. And what I plan to do is, for example, I was talking to Stacy on the first tour that we had with the high school students, and I was planning on forming, she had like an idea for like a law committee, and I was like, I should definitely do that. So what I plan to do is definitely just talk about it in my school first, and then form a group of students who go together. Go to the state house, organize uh, protests. For example, like they had an ICE protest with the high school where they stepped out after a period and just protested in front of the state house lawn against ICE. And I want to do things like that, but like for example with House Bill 1633,
Yeah.
like protesting like against the people who are
No,
being
no. In what capacity did you testify on House Bill 163 or 1633?
what do you mean?
So you had testified, but
Hmm.
you testified obviously, for the bill. But,
Hmm.
did you give it? I mean, what was the testimony? What was your emotional connection to it that made you want to testify?
For example, I just wanted to say that I haven't experienced sexual assault firsthand, but I have a lot of peers and friends who have, and it really affects them mentally as well, and just physically, and how they just go on about their life afterwards, and the shame and the stigma around it, around victims and everything, and how you just fall into a state of depression and feel like you're just so lost. And I never wanted anybody to feel like that. And if they do, how they can get help and, move forward after. And this isn't to say that you need to have someone who experienced sexual assault around you to understand what a victim goes through.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it should just be a common sense of human decency where you would never want someone to go through that, since just golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. You wouldn't want to be treated with disgust or negativity after you experience something so traumatic,
Mhm.
and you want to treat people that way too. And that was the thing that really drove me to speak up on it there, since a talking point of one of the senators after saying with the coalition that said that it would cause a false sense of hope for victims after this
Oh,
bill got passed.
what?
He was asking this question to some people. That was like the one question he was asking, which didn't really make sense. And because one of his thoughts was just like,
And who is he?
I forgot his name. I didn't really get his name, but he was one of the senators on the committee that were hearing it.
Okay.
And his talking point was, if my daughter went through this and she went and got help, then would this give her a sense of false hope? And number one, why do you always assume that it's a woman? This could happen, a young woman. This could happen to you.
A man. Yeah.
Exactly. This could happen to a grown man, anybody, honestly.
Hmm.
And this sense of when you view a quote unquote perfect victim.
Mhm.
You view someone who's, very fragile, very small, very, feminine in that sense. And that, I say it's propaganda, since anybody can go through sexual assault or just be, you know, a victim in any sense,
Any
regardless
color, any shape, you name it. You're going to go through it. Any gender.
of gender, race, sexual orientation, anything.
Mhm.
People go through that. And I don't know why he was using that, but I don't know why that would be the case. And another thing too, the senators on the board were told that the rape kits that they would be receiving were at-home rape kits, which isn't allowed in New Hampshire.
Mhm.
Because if you were to go ahead and have an at-home rape kit and provide it as evidence in court, it wouldn't be considered uh, useful evidence at all.
Mhm.
So then it's just not going to be allowed. So you would have the rape kit at the hospital, obviously.
13 years old. She gets it. She gets it.
Yeah.
You're definitely one of us, Esther. You're one of
Yeah.
us.
So I got a connection to it. It was just like I've seen what it can do to people
Yeah.
firsthand, and just educating myself, reading articles, learning like the neuroscience behind it, like everything like that. And I was like, I don't want anybody in my community or in the world at all to experience this. So I will go ahead and testify them. I might be scared, I might be nervous, I might be anxious, but my anxiety is overridden by the fact that these people need help, and I am in a position where I can, testify for them and speak for people who don't have a voice in the community.
Right.
That very much was like, okay, me being anxious or, tons of people needing help. I think it's like more people need help, right? Than my anxiety. So that was really what drove me to it. And my testimony was really just a lot of young people value the bill and value how it can help them. And they understand that this is very necessary for anybody, regardless of age as well. And that everybody deserves the same amount of respect as you do. And another point that I had made was that you recite your rights to someone when they're getting arrested, which is someone who, for example, could be the, you know, inflictor of this sexual assault. So you can't really give the rights to someone who gets sexually assaulted but not the victim of it, because that's just, contradictory in by definition. So that's what really drove me to it, and that's what I talked about when I went ahead and testified.
That is just excellent. Thank you for testifying and thank you for being so brave because it is nerve-wracking. You have these people you don't know who are like 1,000 years older than you sitting around, and it's like,
Yikes.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And that's what's so exciting about the Concord kids is the school that Esther goes to is 1 mile from the state house. So even though she can't vote for like 5 years, she can speak like constantly at the state house and have a huge impact, not only in New Hampshire, but because New Hampshire is first in the nation. So Esther's testimony is going to carry weight and influence across our country, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's great because you're a non-political party. You are a true observant observer of the situation, and it's great to come in as an observer first, and then you can act accordingly when you're 18.
For sure. And I think a lot of people, just see that because I am this age and just because they are this age, people who are under the age of, voting and everything, they feel like I can't get involved with my government, I can't do anything really. When in reality they really can. And they can help not only on a local level, but like the national level as well. And things of that nature.
Now, what is your biggest aspiration in life?
For now, I mean, right now I'm gonna
Let's say, okay, 5 years from now. Let's say 5 years.
um win at least a state title for wrestling. I want to get that done by then. And then another thing as well is I just want to help out little, you know, women of color and people of color here in New Hampshire and just put more into my community because once you pour something into a community, it will eventually come and, round back to you.
Mhm.
And when people around you are happy, you're naturally going to be happy as well. And I just want to get involved in government, whether it be uh, being a state rep or, helping pass a bill that helps victims of sexual assault. I just want to definitely put forth positive energy and be seen as, a positive individual. Like when people see me, I don't want them to think, oh, shucks, she testified against that bill that could have, definitely helped a lot of people. They want to look at that. I want people to look at me and see, oh, that girl really helped me in this way or that way, and just see me in a light that's, more positive.
Or like being of service.
For sure, definitely. I just want to be of service to my community.
Hmm.
You're awesome, Esther. You really are. And I'm not saying that in a patronizing sort of way. Like, I truly think you're awesome.
So what I plan to do is creating a group of, future lawmakers, future, community members that are young and also put forth into politics. For example, my big idea and my big plan is that in high school I want to create like a lawyer central, for example, where
Hmm.
young groups of people go ahead and come together and testify on these bills, go together and protest, go together and educate themselves on policies of, you know, politicians, things of that nature. And another thing too is like Kellyanne just passed a bill that doesn't allow high school students or college students to use their student ID to vote, and I really do not like that. And one of my plans for sure is to get that out of the law. And I feel like with a lawyer's community or anything in school, I could definitely work towards doing that with tons of other people who are more passionate about it and just on the same level of understanding that I am. And even more as well, since there's going to be upperclassmen that I can learn from and things of that nature. And then what I'm looking forward to is definitely, you know, getting better at, for example, public speaking, getting better at talking to people, learning people's stories, and definitely helping out my community.
Thank you so much for your time, Esther. I know you have a practice to get to. So, wrestling practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, where are you in wrestling? Is it
I
like
may,
here?
huh?
Are there like different tiers, or I know nothing about wrestling, so you have to tell me all
Uh,
about it.
I ended my second year at Runlet Middle School.
Mhm.
I had placed third at youth states in my weight class. I feel like the light's going to me, so I just want to give a shout out. My teammate, Eileen, she wrestled at 99 pounds. She is nasty at wrestling. When I tell you she's nasty, she is nasty at wrestling. She had placed second at states, and she was a finalist at New England's, and she placed second. So
Wow.
that's just very great. But she wrestles at 99. I had placed fifth at New England and third at States, so I'm very proud. But I can definitely do better as well.
So, not only are you a future legislator, but you can seriously whoop someone's butt if they get in your face, which could be useful in the state house.
Sure. I feel like if someone ever had the audacity to like raise a hand at me, I could definitely defend myself.
Hmm. Nice.
You go, girl. You're awesome. All right. Well,
Well,
thank you for joining us at the Gracie Gato podcast. And Esther, you are an honorary member of the Agents of Chaos. Just keep calling them out and don't ever shut up. Don't ever let them talk down to you and don't ever shrink for anybody. Promise me.
Thank you so much.
awesome.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Welcome to Gracie Gatto Podcast.